Okay guys, this is a video I didn't want to make, but the thing has been gnawing at me and eating at me until finally I've just had to put it down. It's probably one of the hardest things I ever did. It may ruffle a feather or two. It may, I may lose a subscriber or two, but as an American and as a human being, I feel compelled. I've been just compelled to make this video. So after this, I should be back to my normal schedule of traveling and writing stuff. Because we know that they have machines out there that are looking for specific words and then they start recording. For anything I use on the current event, I'm going to use the word beer. And I'm also going to use some other funky words that you'll know what they mean. You'll get what they're saying. So why have I been so passionate about this whole thing? There's like a couple of groups, man. There are those who believe in the whole what we're being told thing, and they are afraid that if they don't take all the precautions, hundreds of thousands may die. Okay? Then there are those on the other side who believe that all that is a distraction for something else. They are worried about the something else that's going on, another plan that's behind the whole thing. And we are worried that billions will die. Billions, including you, your family, myself, a whole lot of us are going to die. And that's the reason. And why is that? Well, I'm going to explain to you how I see it in this video, okay? Now, the Sturgis rally was bigger than I'd seen it in years this year. And the reason is because I talked with a whole lot of people out here, and they all told me basically the same thing, that they've figured out that something else is going on, something ain't right, you know, and that they're being lied to, and they're not believing what they're told. And that's why so many people showed up here. I have a lot of video clips of them talking. Maybe at some point I'll put those together. Right, I personally have been following this thing since 1991, and all these pieces have just seemed to all fit together. And I just figured that everybody could see all these pieces fitting together, that it was kind of obvious, but I guess it's really not. Most of the people I've talked to here, although they have bits and pieces put together and they have ideas, they don't see the whole thing going on clearly. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put together and show you everything that I have seen and how it all fits together. And when I get done, and when I put it all together, when it all falls together at the end, you may just go, wow, you may see a clear picture of it. Okay, the first clue I had about this was in 1991 when I saw this news broadcast on network television.
This is an historic moment. We have in this past year made great progress in ending the long era of conflict and Cold War. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Then we had this one by Tricky Dick somewhere back in the 70s.
The interest that each of us has to maintain our independence and the security of our peoples, and the hope that each of us has to build a new world order.
And then recently we have the mayor of Chicago.
We always make a deal, but it's going to be a different kind of deal because it's got to be a deal that respects the values that in the new world order regarding local policing. And you pick the people that run those agencies and the deputies that are pledging allegiance to the new world order and good governance.
Now, I've directed Superintendent Brown to order all police districts to give special attention to these parties. And this is how it's going to be. We will shut you down, we will cite you, and if we need to, we will arrest you, and we will take you to jail. Period.
I found that one after I made this video. Right there, the governor of Chicago states that she's working for the enemy of the people and that she will use force to carry out whatever they want done. Really? Anyways, back to 1991. When I saw this, I thought to myself, Well, wanting to rule the world, that's a crazy idea. But on the other hand, this is the oldest one in the book. It's been going on since biblical times, as long as recorded history. The British almost pulled it off once. It's been done by countless guys. I could get into them. And even you see countries always occupying other countries, trying to throw their weight around, trying to take over, trying to control other places. The U.S. is doing it, been doing it now for years, throwing their weight around in other countries. So I thought, well, it's not that far out of an idea, right? So then time marches on, and I kind of forget about that. Then we have this. Okay, now I'm just going to refer to that as the buildings. When that happened, that was the most important event that had ever happened in my life, and I paid strict attention to it. I went and right away and researched it. I tried to prove it was planes, and there was almost nothing to support that. I tried to prove it was something else, and the evidence was overwhelming. That is not a theory. That one is extremely factual. Everybody knows that one now. The cat's out of the bag. It was a poorly done false flag. My Facebook is maxed out at 5,000, and I put the question up there once, just who thought it was planes, who thought it was something else. And I got almost 200 replies, 3 thought planes. So that cat's out of the bag. So what that means is nobody from the outside could have got in there and planned all that and put that together. That means our guys did it. That means they killed 3,000 of us in one of our own cities to perpetuate their agenda, which has been the endless war, right? This gave them power over oil-bearing countries as well as power over us with the Patriot Act. When they did that, to me, they became the mortal enemy of the people, in my mind. And then they started this support our troops propaganda. You guys remember that one, right? And don't get me wrong, because half of my friends are veterans, man. But they needed people to get into war machines to go do the dirty work. And guys were telling me, they're like, I'm defending my country, Scotty. And I'm like, you're not defending your country. Open eyes, engaged brain, okay? You are invading other countries and occupying them. That's what you're really doing. And then they started this whole, I heard it on my radio, constantly on my bike. 2 terrorists apprehended at the airport, a terrorist plot uncovered, and on and on. It was just like endless. And my friends were telling me, they're like, Scotty, we got all this terrorism going on in the U.S. And I'm like, dude, I have never heard of a car bomb going off here in the U.S. I mean, we had that thing in Oklahoma, but that was something different. And they're like, no, it's really going on. It's really going on. And people believed it. I was shocked that people could believe it. I was like, it's such lies, man. And now we don't hear about that anymore, do we? Because it's not necessary. Think about who the real terrorists were, okay? Because this was done and blamed on somebody else that didn't do it. That's what I seen. Maybe you see something different. That's what I saw. Time marches merrily on after that, all right? Now we begin to see them try to get the guns away. And we all know why the Second Amendment's there, in case they get out of control, is why. That's why it was put in there. So we see them trying to get the guns away, and there's a bunch of extremes on that. One of the things I saw was we had the school shootings, but there was one of these shootings. It was then one down in Florida. Maybe some of you guys remember it. It was the one where the cop was told to stand down. He had a cell phone, and he never went in. And there was a couple things. That was before the press was completely compromised, and I saw some news clips on that one. And you had one of the teachers, she said in the interview, I saw it, that she was in the classroom on the floor trying to get behind the desks along with the other kids, and she's watching a guy standing in the hallway dressed in full military regalia shooting down the hallway. There was also the girl that knew the kid that supposedly did this, and she said she's standing in the hall talking with him, and she's hearing shots. They are hearing shots in the other side of the school, and so there had to be 2 shooters, she said. But the part that really got me was 40 minutes after the whole thing was over, they finally catch the kid, and I'm going to give you a little clip of that. And they got him, and he's face down in the grass, and the boy is out. He is so loaded he can hardly walk. 40 minutes later, right? Why did it take that long? Okay? And if you look, you will see that that boy is just a noodle, and they don't show him them taking him to the car anymore. They cut that part out. It was in there because they about had to carry him. And when he gets to the car, you watch, the boy can't even hold his head up, man. When I realized this, then I was like, oh, like now they're killing our kids, okay, to perpetuate their agenda. These people are ruthless. People like this have always existed. The Stalins of the world, the Adolfs, Mussolini, Saddam, El Chapo from Mexico, people who are power mad and don't care how high the bodies pile. We've always had them. They're never going to go away. Okay, and we're dealing obviously with something like that. Okay, so the next thing that I saw happen, you guys, now when I was a kid, if you're as old as me, maybe you remember this, people believed in the American media. I remember this. They thought it was all legitimate. And what changed all that was Richard Nixon had a bad habit of recording all the conversations that went on in the White House. Somebody got a hold of them tapes and smuggled them out to the Washington Post newspaper. The Post began to transcribe these tapes and print them in the paper, and the corruption came out. The White House was livid. They got a hold of that woman who owned the Post, and they told her, you got to cease and desist. We're going to put you in prison and close your business down. Now, she had to make a decision whether she was going to comply or she was going to keep doing what she was doing, and she decided the people needed to know, and she kept printing, and that's what changed everything. Ever since then, everybody's known that the corruption has been out. This is a true story. They made a movie about it recently called The Post. It's got Tom Hanks in it. I saw it, and that's what changed everything. So at that time, the government was afraid of the media, what the media would do. Sometime in the 2000s, I watched on network television as Big Brother took control of, I believe it was it was actually a hostile takeover of the 5 news media outlets. They now control it. Everything, all that you're getting from the media is the same people that have been trying to get the guns, the same people that did the stuff with the buildings. That's what you're getting your information from. The enemy of the people. So who are the culprits? That's the big question. Well, a lot of people are looking to governments, thinking the election, blah, blah, blah. A lot of my friends tell me that. But I'm going to tell you what, you guys, I know people all over the world, and I only go with firsthand experience. I got a friend in France. They have the same thing there. I got a friend in Australia. They're not allowed to cross state lines there, she's telling me. I have a friend in the UK, same thing. Belize and the Philippines now are pretty much under military rule. You walk out without a muzzle, you go to jail. Okay, I don't think those countries care about our election. Do we care about theirs? Obviously, that's probably not what's going on. Now, I think most people know that there is a small handful of the super powerful that actually run the world. These are in the shadow. They are way above. Look up there. They are called and I'm going to refer to them simply as the group. And if you look into who's involved there, you will see it's all the biggest names and some of our governors and all of our people, okay, pulling the strings on this. Now, they have wanted to make a one world government for a long time, and they have a habit of telling us what they're going to do.
Is that there is no question that there will be a challenge, the coming administration, in the arena of infectious diseases. Also, there will be a surprise outbreak.
Now, I'm going to call to your attention, I don't know how many of you have heard of the Georgia guidestones. I'm going to talk about those. They materialized in 1980, just like out of nowhere, okay? And the guy who hired the contractor to build them did it under an alias name. The deal was when they were finished, all the records had to be destroyed. No expense was spared. Money flowed like water for these guys, for this particular project. And the thing just stands there. 1980 it was put up. And in 8 languages, it tells the Constitution, if you will, for the new one world government. And you can see that. And here are a few pictures of it here. I strongly suggest that you take the last one, pause it, and read it, because it's going to shock you. That first one's a little bit shocking, isn't it? There are a bunch of neat ideas. Anybody with eyes can see that the world as it is not sustainable. It cannot go on forever, but all great societies have come and gone through history. There's probably been thousands of them. So rather than letting it end naturally, I think they came up with this great idea to create this perfect world, okay? And so supposedly, when I say supposedly, what I'm talking about is the media doesn't have anything for me anymore. I have to look across the net and look anywhere I can find information. And then the truth is in there. But the problem is a person has to weed through it and see what makes sense to them. So when I say supposedly, that's what I'm talking about, stuff I found there. Now supposedly this idea was taken to the UN in 1992 and sold to 178 countries. That may be true. And these people, these neat ideas of this wonderful new world, okay? And some of these countries might benefit from those wonderful ideas. And the people who run and rule these countries, they're just people like you and me. They're open to a sales pitch. Well, I'm not. I never have been. But they're open to a sales pitch. They're just regular old idiots. They probably have bigger egos because of their powerful, occupations. And so 178 supposedly bought it. Now there's a few that didn't. Obviously Sweden didn't buy it. I think Denmark didn't buy it. There's a few countries that have not changed anything. They're handling this like we've always handled epidemics in the past, letting the people do what they think is right, not forcing anybody to do anything. So, but I don't believe the sales pitch, and obviously Sweden didn't either, because anybody who is capable or willing to pile the bodies up like that does not have the people's best interest in mind. Now there is a documentary about this group. The guy who's made it's a little bit extreme. I don't know that I buy everything he says. I will leave a link to it in the Dropbox below if you want to look a little more into these guys and what they're doing. So I don't believe governments have power anymore, or either that or they're in on it. I mean, what do? You come to the governor, you say, look, this is going to happen. 80% of the population is going to... Which side do you want to be on? You want a seat at the big table, or you want to be with the masses? And so what are they going to do? If they've been planning this, putting this plan for at least 60 years, some people believe it's been longer. In any case, these guys are well funded, very serious. The people of the world are under extreme attack now. I don't believe governments have any control anymore, which is pretty evident by the way we have riots going on in the streets, and they are defunding the cops. Now that, you know what I mean? There's another fact. That's a big fact. The facts are what's important. To put the pieces actually together for real and stop dabbling in bullshit and propaganda. Okay, so and then we have the present situation. Well, I thought, what's different about this? We've always had these things. I myself have lived through 5 of them, the worst of which being the Hong Kong flu, which is 1968 and 69. I was born in 60, so I was a kid at that time. During that time, we had the Vietnam War, which brought protests of thousands of people in the streets. We had the lunar moon landing. We had the Woodstock Music Festival, 500 million people in the mud, and I went to school every day. And that was the mildest of the last century. And even more recently, in 2002, we had another beer illness, and they're saying it's different than this one, but I'm not seeing that. For neither of those, for none of these, we've had these things forever. Nobody's ever told us what to do before. It was left up to the medical profession to handle it, and up to our own discretion as free people, as adults. So, what's different now? How come all of a sudden we're shutting the world down? How come everybody's telling us what to do? What's going on here? Well, I'm going to get to that a little later on in this video, and also offer a few personal solutions that anybody can do. Ironically, the CDC recently released new numbers buried deep in their report where they outright admit that only 6% of their previous predictions of people who died from beer were accurate. Of course, they used all the power of media, social media, and blanket coverage to bury this thing, this mistake, as quickly as they could. But it doesn't change the fact that it happened. So 94% were inaccurate. Well, most of us know that. Ultimately, this thing has caused less deaths than the flu. Obviously, the problem is not the beer. The problem is those perpetuating the beer thing, as I originally stated in the beginning of this video. But of course, most of my friends already figured this out by using their own eyes and their own brain. That is why Sturgis was so crowded this year. So why, then, are people still wearing the masks? Who knows? Maybe it's a need to please their master?
There, on the rocks. That beautiful girl. Come to me, my child. That is strength, boy. That is power. What is steel compared to the hand that wields it?
To follow the herd, to be like the others, to be accepted, to not question authority, to not have to think, to not be original, or to follow the lemmings? Not long ago, I watched a video on farts. It was comical, but it was factual, right? It was a scientific report. And the interesting thing is what makes the smell in farts is actually microscopic flecks of shit in the air. I know, sounds bad, but think about this. If a fart can go through a set of underwear and a heavy set of Levi's and then through your mask, what good is that mask doing? So what's the muzzle's actual function? Well, it's pretty obvious that what it does is it shows who will comply and who won't. And it also shows how fast they can move forward with the plan. That's pretty obvious. This beer thing, we've had these things forever. They've affected mostly cattle. We had the one in 2002. We had SARS. And in 2005, the official publication of the National Institute, blah, 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 this is the one that is endorsed by the big F guy. It's his. And they say in there that they have a cure, and I have a copy of some of that document. This stuff is an over-the-counter drug in most countries. It's been around for 65 years. It's got a history of working for these kinds of things. What we had when this thing first came out, we had a bunch of video clips. I saw them. It was before YouTube and all them guys were completely compromised like now. And they were different doctors, very credible guys, and they said, we've used this stuff and we've been using it and it's worked on 100% of the people I've used it on have walked out of here within 24 hours. Those are the ones I saw. Now all those guys got fired. All of them got hushed up. I'm going to leave a link in the Dropbox to a group. Finally, a bunch of these docs got together, maybe so they could, kind of come on in force and not get fired and talk about it. And they're trying to kind of dance around it, but they're telling us the truth, and they're the ones that want to help us. Okay, so though they already have a medication that has great potential to help the public, they have outlawed it without even allowing research into it or allowing anybody to use it. Now they want us to take a shot. But what is the reason for that? Well, first, let me say that although the plan is brilliant, the lies are like a 6-year-old. Okay, it's supposed to be 100% of the people takes this shot. Everybody's going to be mandatory. Why? If you take the shot and I don't, then you're immune and I'm not, so what do you care? That would be freedom, like what we used to have. Well, why do they want to give us the shot? There's a lot of different speculation on what will be in those things. Some people think it'll be a chip, some people think it'll be this, some people think it'll be that. I personally think it's going to have things like live cancer cells, stuff that turns you diabetic, things that takes you down later. See what I mean? Because we already know there's other evidence they want to eliminate the majority of the population. That's 80% of us or more, and bring it down to a very governable, should I say, 500 million. Things have mellowed out some for a minute, but they've already stated that they were going to bring the beer back in the fall. I'm sure there's going to be a third phase. There's a very good documentary done. I will leave the name of it down in the description. I think it's a Netflix something. And you got the interesting part though is that he lays the whole thing down just like what I've seen. And he says, and I've had 2 guys, active military, that were here this year at the rally, told me that this is true. He says that the military now has the ability to fake an alien attack. They can use machines that will fake us out. That will freak everybody out. If that happens, that will be fucking brilliant. So what do the survivors have to look forward to? Well, the slaves here in the U.S. were enslaved for generations. Once they were in it, they couldn't get out. Their children were born into slavery and died in it, and they knew that's what was going to happen. There was no hope until there was a change among the white people, and it began to change at that point, just began to. So what do we have to look forward to? The end of the human experience for us. You know, the end of it all, the end of hope for your children, the end of travel, the end of motorcycling, the end of, we have tyranny to look forward to. And once we're in, we won't be able to get out. There have been probably thousands of societies over the course of history. Out of those, there's been less than 10 that were actually free, that weren't like under some kind of rule. And they've all come and gone. They average about 200 years. And the Romans made it 500. They did pretty good. So the idea of this ending is fairly realistic. I mean, if what I have said and what I have showed you here makes no sense to you and doesn't jive, no problem, man. I am not here to tell you how to think. I'm just here showing you what I have seen. However, if it does add up and it does make sense to you, then you may realize that we may be looking at the same thing that happened to the Native Americans, right? And very soon too. Supposedly, they want this thing finished by 2025. That means 80% less people, money gone. And I do believe we are to be moved into cities. There's this whole save the planet idea in that most of the country will be left to not have human inhabitants in it. If all this makes sense to you, you may have realized that our time can be very limited to just a year or two. So what is the solution, if there is one? Well, the group has stated that if they cannot pull this off by deceit, they will use military force. And you know, there's a lot of guys who said, well, our guys won't turn on us, and you know, I hope that's true. But on the other hand, countless countries throughout history have had their own guys turn on them, plus they got UN guys. You know, they'll just use the UN guys, and you know, it makes it harder because we're armed. But on the other hand, we don't have choppers or Gatling guns or missiles or armored vehicles or organization, but we do have the numbers. So aside from that, at this time though, what is the solution? Well, at this time, I'm just going to tell you guys what I've been doing. First off, from the gate, this whole thing has seemed to me like, in reality, an effort to get the small business out of business, and we will become completely dependent on the corporations. Next thing is, notice the way the chain's going away? They want to get rid of the money so that they will be in control of all the money and all of our food and all of our needs. You see what I'm saying? They will have a firm grip on our balls when that happens. First, it will be mandatory muzzles to get in. Next, it will be proof of the shot, if you can see where this is going. So what I'm doing personally is almost all of my money is going to little businesses. I may pay a little more, but I don't fucking care. These guys are us. They are you. They are me. They are our neighbors. They are our friends. They are us, the people. That's where my money's going. I'm staying out of the corporations, Wally World and all that. The corporations are on top of this. They belong to them. Okay, I'm staying out of them unless I absolutely have to deal with them for some reason. And even then, I won't comply. Non-compliance at this time is the obvious answer. If everybody threw off the muzzles, opened up their businesses, and refused to attend the riots, which are an obvious attempt to destabilize the region, which is a military term, it's something they do, by creating a race war that doesn't exist. If everybody did these things, we would be back to normal in 2 weeks. We're so far have done all this to ourselves by compliance. We're simply doing it to ourselves by doing what we're told. Okay? If everybody didn't, we would be back to normal in 2 weeks. This is a reason people have wondered why I'm so against the muzzles and all that. Every muzzle worn is another nail in our coffin as far as I'm concerned. Every act of compliance is another nail in our coffin. Okay? Think about it. If Wally World opened up and all the people, or even half the people, didn't show up, we would force a change. We would force one. If their shit started to fail because we were saying, fuck you, we're not going to comply, we would force a change. The other thing is not using the card, spending only cash. Getting rid of the cash is a large part of this deal. You guys have seen the change going away, okay? In this town here, in this state, everything is allowed to be open. You can have a restaurant open. You take your own precautions that you see fit, okay? And so most of the places, their dining rooms and all that are open. There's a Burger King in town, dining room's closed. Well, that's coming down from corporate. Corporate's in on this shit. They don't have to be doing that. Fuck that place. I won't go there. I went into the Dairy Queen a week or so ago, or whenever, and although they're still giving change, I looked at the little machine there and it said, how do you want your change in a voucher, or put on your card, or blah, blah, blah. Fuck that. I won't go there. Okay? I don't believe governments have any power anymore, which is pretty evident by the way we have riots going on in the streets while they defund the cops. I don't think anybody's going to save us, guys, crying out for, you know, some people are thinking it's going to be the elections are going to save us, and I hope they're right. God, I hope they're right. But I'm not seeing that, because I know people all over the world, they got the same fucking thing going on over there we do. Do you think they care about our elections? I doubt it. Do we care about theirs? Not really. So I think this is way above that. And so all we have left is us. So I'm spending cash. If they don't take cash, I don't go there. I have friends who tell me, well, that's an inconvenience, Scotty. You know, I go to the gas station, I put the card down, I don't have to walk in and pay. I'm like, yeah, that's an inconvenience. But also, having your entire world destroyed, I think is an even bigger inconvenience. Make a little fucking effort. A friend of mine just told me, she said, well, but the business has to put the money, the cash they get in the bank. I'm like, why? She said, so they can pay their bills. I'm like, it's an inconvenience, but a person can go down to the post office, buy money orders, and send them off. The banks, they are one of the main powers sitting on top of this empire. And they want complete control of us, and they want to do it with our own money. So try to stay out of there. Try to keep the money out of there. If it doesn't need to go in there, don't put it in there. It's a strange thing, man. There's a lot of things that can be done without using a bank. People mostly use banks because other people use banks. It's kind of a monkey see, monkey do world. Okay, but this is not a good time to be following the herd, or the lemmings, as they say. This is a good time to see what's going on and make some changes and make some serious effort to try to push these guys, to try to push back. I mean, the only thing we have left to rely on is the people. And I'll tell you, man, the people are failing us miserably, as a lot of you have seen. Unfortunately, it was something, I think it was P.T. Barnum once said, I hate to say this, but he said he will never go broke overestimating the stupidity of the masses. I think a lot of us can agree that was an understatement. Adolf Hitler once said, it is fortunate for the rulers that men do not think logically. He also said, the people will believe a lie before they will believe the truth, and that they will believe a big lie before they'll believe a small one. So I don't know that we're going to get out of this one. I really don't. So at this time, rather than making plans for the future, you know, long-term plans, I'm trying to enjoy my time the best I can. But nobody lives forever. But I'll tell you what's interesting, guys. All you got to do is look around you. Go out to the city, go out to the world, look around you at what's going on in the country. This is a weak parody of what we were just 6 months ago. I mean, it's unbelievable. You can see what's happening. Our whole world is being systematically destroyed, and people are walking around worried that they're going to get fucking sick. Really? I mean, you know, once this thing really gets underway, once the big guys take their mask off and show their true intentions and begin the real beating, we're going to wish that all we had to worry about was getting sick. I'm sure there'll be plenty of comments telling me what a dumbass I am. I want to be wrong. I want, when this is over, for guys to tell me, Scotty, see, you were just full of shit, man. You just don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I will smile and nod, man. I want to be wrong. Unfortunately, if you simply look out your window and look at the world around you, you can see that the facts are that I'm probably not. And so, you guys, I hate to be like this, but I've had to tell you what I see. Actually, it's all pretty obvious. So anyways, I will see you on the next video, and hopefully that will be on a fun, smiley note. Until then.